My name is Richard Crawford, and I've built my career on representing luxury brands around the world. And in doing so, I've had the privilege of having some truly out-of-the-ordinary experiences. But at what cost? It's getting harder and harder to blindly ignore the impact our extravagant lifestyle is having on the planet and its people. So I've decided to investigate whether there really is a sustainable way to visit the wonders of the world but still have extraordinary luxury. Can I have globe-trotting adventures without leaving a significant footprint? Well, let's find out. And by using the basic principles that define ecotourism, which are minimal impact, sustainability, social responsibility, and of course, let's not forget overall guest experience, I will rate my travels around the planet to see if we really can make a difference. This trip takes me to South America and to the sacred valley of Peru. Here, I'll try my hand at some traditional farming, spend the night hanging precariously from the side of a cliff, meet the original Paddington Bear, and finally get to take on a lifelong dream and trek the Machu Picchu Trail. All the while striving to leave no trace. Peru offers some of the most naturally beautiful and biodiverse landscapes in the world. However, in the last decade, the country has witnessed a major increase in tourism, which has had a significant impact on both the environment and its people. Our experience in Peru begins right here in Cusco, which is the capital of the ancient Inca civilization. Now, at just over 11,000 feet, it's the 9th highest city in the world. And I have to be honest, I've came a little unprepared. I'm actually starting to feel the effects of altitude sickness right off the plane. I'm a little lightheaded, I'm out of breath. The air feels clean, but it's very thin. I'm having a little difficult time getting words from here to here, but that's all just the effects. Now, where I'm actually headed to is the Sacred Valley, and Cusco is the gateway to the Sacred Valley. So I decided to do something a little different this time. I've rented a car. I'm going to drive for about an hour and a half through beautiful countryside. Now, doing that with the effects of altitude in a country that I've never driven in before, with beautiful scenery to distract me, I'm not sure it's the best idea, but hey, let's see what the adventure brings us. Seriously. We're not, this is not it. I'm going back on that main highway.
There's a road to the left of the prison.
There is?
Yeah, that's where we want to be.
Oh, back on it? Is it going to take us back on it? No. And it was all going well until, against my better judgment, I took directions from my cameraman. Okay, so where did we start before we came off this road? Down where? So at this point, it seemed the smart thing to do was to ask some locals. So follow this road down here, and then a left. Grazie. Wait a minute, this was supposed to be a 6-lane highway. Well, maybe it was my rudimentary Spanish, but he made it all sound so simple. This just doesn't look right. And my biggest mistake was finally resorting to Google Maps. The map tells me I'll be there in 27 minutes. If I go at 60 miles an hour. But I am officially lost. But it is beautiful. There's not a better place to be lost. You want to get closer to the edge, Ben? I'm not sure that the little Toyota Camry was built for this off-roading. And the further we went, well, the worse that it got. We love you guys. Yeah.
Oh God, that's the undercarriage.
And what was according to Google Maps, only supposed to be a 90-minute drive, became an 8-hour adventure. And then we show up to this little oasis. Welcome to the Sacred Valley. I may have actually used several of my 9 lives just to get here, but as you can see from the scenery behind me, it was absolutely worth it. Welcome to the Sacred Valley of the Incas. Now let me give you a little bit of a history lesson. The Incas lived here from the 13th to the 16th century and chose to live here for several reasons. First of all, it was close to their capital, Cusco. Also, the climate here, because it's 3,000 feet lower than Cusco is, which sits about just over 11,000 feet, it was a little warmer and definitely a little more comfortable. They also had the river running right through the valley there, which gave them a water source for drinking and for their crops. Now, the Incas used to break their lands up into 3. 1/3 for the emperor, 1/3 for the religious establishments, and 1/3 for the working class. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Incas were only about 40,000 people who ruled over about 10 million people in Peru, and they preferred to stay here. And in fact, this whole land was used mostly for their mansions and royal estates. Now, about 1.2 million visitors come here every year, which is fantastic for the economy and the community. However, it presents very large challenges when it comes to the environment and sustainability. Yes, the money is good for the community, but there's a huge impact on the environment, so it's very difficult to balance that out. We have come here because we've heard about a company called Inkaterra, who have been pioneers in ecotourism since the early 1970s. And in fact, one of the properties is right down here at the base of this mountain in the middle of the valley. And if we're lucky and I can make it down this mountain safely and get over there, we'll find out some of the things that they're doing to face these challenges. Welcome to the Inkaterra Hacienda Urubamba, one of several properties located in eco-sensitive regions throughout Peru. Now, as I mentioned before, the whole reason that we are here is because these guys are true pioneers in ecotourism, and in fact have been doing it since 1978, at a time when ecotourism was not even a term. And they cover 3 major regions. Research, where they employ a team of scientists who in their studies have discovered over 1,500 species of animals and plants, including 28 that weren't previously known to science. Conservation, they were the first Peruvian company recognized as being completely carbon neutral in 1989, and part of that is due to a 10,000 hectare reserve which mitigates about 200 tons of carbon every year per hectare. Finally, education, where they've employed and educated over 4,000 locals. Now, because of all of their efforts, they've received many, many accolades, including being the first international hotel group to receive the International Certificate of Sustainable Tourism in 2012. And if that is not enough, the place is absolutely beautiful. So let's go check it out. The accommodations here on the property consist of 12 rooms in the main building and 25 individual VIP casitas which sit right on the back of the property, and ultimately that's like having your own house. But as you can see from these rooms, just because you're being environmentally sensitive doesn't mean that you have to give up on style. And in fact, this property is a member of the National Geographic Great Lodges of the World. It's also a member of the Relais & Chateau organization, who covers some of the best hotels anywhere. A couple of nice touches that I personally like is each room has a nice little fireplace. And not only that, they warm your bed up at night with a nice little hot water bottle. Well, good morning and welcome to another beautiful day here at the Inkaterra Hacienda Urubamba, right here in the Sacred Valley, which is about 2 hours from Cusco here in Peru. Now, the Sacred Valley was a favorite spot of the Incas, so I thought I'd get out today with my guide and see some of that Incan culture that the area is famous for. So let's go check it out. It's not surprising that an important part of the experience here is food. And I don't just mean from a culinary point of view, I mean also from a sustainability point of view. And these guys have a philosophy of sourcing everything locally, but they've actually taken it one step further. They've built this 10-hectare farm right on the grounds. And for example, what we have here is a type of fava bean. Now this truly is farm to plate. Farmed right here, plated right there. Now, it is a short distance, but nobody said it was going to be easy. Well, unfortunately, the fields don't plough themselves, and this is about as far as it gets for modern farming. In fact, this was a traditional method used hundreds and hundreds of years ago here in the valley. And I have my trusty work guy here with me, who, by the way, is wearing flip-flops, which I think is absolutely incredible. Do you have any words of advice for me? Good, okay, nothing. How hard can it be? Okay, here we go. I really want to get a sense of how difficult this is. Okay, let's go, up, 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 let's go. I don't want to hit it hard. There we go, okay. Oh. Yeah, this is not easy. I'm already worn out. You know, there are easier ways to do this. A tractor, perhaps? But here, it's about sustaining traditional methods and keeping the carbon footprint to a minimum. The local farmers sure made it look easy, but the equipment is heavy, and the animals, well, they have a mind of their own. Oh, there you go. Outside of the difficulty, it smells like crap. You know, I'm glad dinner tonight isn't relying on me, because I just keep ploughing the same thing over and over. The fruits of my labour. I've never actually had to work so hard for a plate of French fries. Big thank you to you. Nothing. There you go, that's what I thought. To the Incas, maize was a very important crop, and not just for eating. They also used to make chicha from it. And chicha is an Incan beer, which they drink vast quantities of at celebrations and festivals. And as a Scotsman, I can testify that the backbone of any great society is a good stiff drink. And I tell you what, after ploughing that field today, I need a good stiff drink. So I've come here to the House of Chicha, where they're actually going to teach me how to make that beer using all the traditional methods. Let's go check it out. So how do we get from grain to glass? Well, according to my guide, it's pretty easy. So it starts off with the maize. It's soaked in water for a few days, it's dried out, and it germinates. And we're left with this. Then we grind it on a traditional grinding stone, and in keeping with our efforts to sustain minimal impact on the environment, you will notice that there's no electrical machinery in here. Don't imagine I'm getting much beer out of this, so we then put the maize into the pot to boil. It's quite phallic, I have to say. Well, maybe not. Okay. It's filtered through the woven basket. It's then left to ferment overnight. But in order to increase the rate of fermentation a little bit, we're actually going to add a little beer that we made from last night and help move along that process a little bit. So let me just put some of that into here. And now all that's left to do is let this sit for about several days and it'll be ready. Meantime, I think it's just about time now for me to try this. Now, but not so fast. Local tradition requires that we first offer a little bit out of our glass back to nature. So we're pouring a little bit of this out to thank Mother Earth and the Father of the Heavens. Okay, then here we go. How much? Just a little bit, because I'm Scottish, but a little frugal. Okay, I don't like to spill a lot of drink. Okay. Is that good? Now I get to taste it. Okay, here goes. It smells grainy, so we'll... And of course, one glass became two glasses became three. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
And three became, well, the floor. I love you, Chicha. Just outside of Maras here in the Sacred Valley are these Minas de Sal, these massive salt mines which predate Inca. However, the Incas themselves created this very sophisticated system of pools and terraces to harvest the salt. Now today it's a huge tourist attraction, but it is still being used as a salt mine, which is pretty fascinating. And what really got me was as we came around the corner there and this massive salt mine revealed itself right in the middle of this valley, I was so awestruck. It's important to note that although there is controversy concerning salt mining around the world, here at the Salinas de Maras, all salt is harvested using the sustainable and ethical traditional system of water channeling. The whole process starts here at what seems like a rather unassuming little stream. It actually flows at about 8 litres per second, and you can see where it's coming right out of the mountain there, where it's already gained all of its salinity. And you can see also just on the bank above the little stream there, some salt deposits. So this is at the very top where the stream first enters the salt ponds. So I figure I'd come up here and give it a little taste. Oh, yeah, it's pretty salty. You can take my word for it. A really interesting aspect of these salt flats for me is that they're owned by local families. And they've been owned for generations, all the way back to the Incas. Now what's important also is that all these families work in harmony to control the water flow so that they can maximize their yield of the salt out of the pools. Also, if you are a new member of the community, your salt flat is all the way there at the end. However, if you're one of the originals, then you have prime location right up front. Now it's estimated that each pool produces about 150 kilograms a month. Now given the fact that there's about 3,000 pools here, that equates to about 4.5 million kilograms a year that is then distributed throughout the whole world. So the way that this works is the water is gravity fed into these top pools and continues to be gravity fed throughout all the different terraces below. And the Incas built these centuries ago. And what's fascinating to me is that they're still building them today. Now the water comes in here and it sits for a few days, and with the sun the water evaporates and leaves behind this crystalline salt. And on the top layer, which takes about a week, you get this white fine salt. However, the next layer down, which takes about a month, you get a good pink rock salt. So these salt flats are incredibly important to the economy of the community, and as well as having the regular flavor salts and bath salts, they have salted chocolate. And you can even get some salt carvings, and it's probably going to be much cheaper for me to buy it here than it is back home. So, excuse me. The more I find out about the Incas, the more apparent it is to me how clever they were between their massive salt mines and their sophisticated systems of irrigation. However, probably what was the most ingenious thing, at least for me, was here in Moray at this archaeological ruin site. And basically what this was, we think, was a government-run agricultural laboratory. And what they've done is they've created from top to bottom 18 different layers, and each one is its own little microclimate. And in fact, the difference in temperature from the top to the bottom is 15 degrees centigrade, which is pretty significant. And what they would do was they'd grow different crops at different levels to find out how these crops grew in those microclimates, and then distribute that throughout their whole empire. I mentioned at the top that there would be a change in temperature, and I definitely felt that coming down here. It's much cooler down here and it's a little windier. Now what these guys managed to do was utilize the angle of the sun and the lay of the land, and also bring in soils from different parts of their empire. For example, they brought in sand from the coast, black soil from the Amazon, and they would grow their crops in these different soils to see what the outcome was. And to be honest, that's biodiversity in the Middle Ages. Unfortunately, there were some floods several years ago, and we had a collapsing of some of the terraces out there. And unless the appropriate measures are taking place, this might not be here for future generations. Well, my time here at the Inkaterra Urubamba is coming to a close. But tomorrow, I'm heading out into the Sacred Valley to explore a little more of what it has to offer. And let me tell you, I'm also looking forward to tomorrow night's accommodation. But until then, I'm going to gaze upon the stars, the same stars that the ancient Incas looked at, and I'm going to enjoy my homemade chicha. Salud! So I've just jumped back into the trusty old car, and I'm going to give Google Maps one last chance. I'm heading to an eco-adventure lodge, which everybody tells me is going to be the height of my experience here in Peru. Well, I think I'm here. According to Google Maps, this is the Sky Lodge. Okay, well, hey, I'm Richard Crawford. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir. I am Americo. I will be your guide for today.
You'll be our guide. Good.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm in the right place, but where's our accommodation?
Up there, sir.
What? No, those little pods up there?
These little pods are.
I guess that's where you get the name Sky Lodge, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hold on, let this sink in for a minute. I'm not 100% sure I was prepared for that. How do we get there?
We're gonna climb on these metal stairs and metal cable keys here over there.
Those little pieces of metal hanging
Yeah.
out the rock, that's
Yeah,
how we
we're
get
gonna
up.
climb all the way up.
No pulley system, no me getting on
pulley
your back
system,
and getting
no-
up there.
No cable car.
Ah, okay,
you
well,
have to climb by yourself.
well, as I like to say, what can go wrong?
Okay.
Let's go.
Come with me, man.
My guide Amerigo tells me there's 3 pods or suites up there, as well as a dining pod. And as you can see from this, they're made from a very lightweight frame and completely covered in perspex. And I hear there's bathrooms on there too, so that should make it pretty interesting. But what's fascinating is they were all made and assembled right here in the valley. Well, I guess it's time to get harnessed up and see how this goes. Thanks, Amerigo. I have to say, I've checked into many hotels in my lifetime. Never like this. It's actually just to keep all your brains in one place so they can pick them up. Actually, I'm not nervous at all. I don't have an issue with heights, but at the same time, I'm right down here in the bottom. I'm not nervous. I'm actually really excited and looking forward to it. Thankfully, there is a trend today when building new hotels to leave as little an impact as possible on the environment. But there are few who can claim to leave as minimal a trace as the Adventure Sky Lodges. So as we climb this mountain, we're attached to this iron cable and using some iron rods that are basically attached to the mountain. And it's known as Via Ferrati, which is Italian for iron way. And it was used initially by the Italian Special Forces in the First World War. Now, it is making it a little bit easier and gives me a little bit of more of a confidence boost to know that I'm attached in some way, but it's still quite the trek. As if the climb wasn't difficult enough, halfway up the mountain, a drone decided it needed a software update, which actually, believe it or not, needed a cell phone connection. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't even get reception in the middle of the city, let alone hang off the side of a Peruvian cliff. Needless to say, Ben, our camera operator, was less than impressed.
Let's go to the Sky Lodge, he said. It'll be fun, he said. Yeah, great.
Things were getting a little tough, and just when I thought I was about to give up, thankfully the Sky Lodges came into sight. Finally, we'd arrived. Well, after 900 steps and what is half a kilometre up, I finally made it to what is probably one of the most unique hotels I've ever seen, and I have to say, it was a lot more strenuous than I even anticipated. And it's really not for the faint of heart. And if you're scared of heights, this is not the hotel for you. Let's go check in. Reservation for Crawford. Si, senor. Now this is really cool. So this is a reception and the dining area, and also I will presume the business centre. But what it's not are the bedrooms and the bathrooms, and we'll get to that in just a little minute. But literally, we're hanging off the edge of a cliff here. You can tell from the sheer drop behind us that there's nothing below us, nothing below this floor, and everything is held up by cables. Now, fortunately, I'm going to have a little dinner before I go to my room tonight and bed down. And believe it or not, I was able to pre-order that. How are you, chef?
Fine.
Good, good. Which, by the way, you better get it right because I don't want to have to send it back. So I'm really surprised that the food looks fantastic. I had a huge selection to choose from. I had to pre-order it. But what's fascinating about this place is everything has to be literally brought up by hand, whether it's your spoon, a knife, glassware, paper towels, everything. But it's well worth the view. Well, I've checked in and I asked for a room on a high floor. And let's be honest, it doesn't get any higher than this. Amerigo, thanks for getting here alive and well.
You are welcome.
This is one of 3 pods. Are there any plans at all to have more?
No,
Not at all.
No, not yet, because we think just 3 gonna be special, you know. More just gonna be commercial.
Too commercial if you do too many. The owners have made that decision.
Yeah. The owner was thinking about things.
Yeah, so that
3 enough.
So keeping it 3 really keeps it boutique. Okay. Well, I have to say, every time I check into a hotel and I put my key in the door, I always have a little anticipation and curiosity as to what the room is going to look like. And I feel the same way right now. So here we go. Entering my room in a pod on the side of a sheer cliff. Wow. Okay. So it really was quite the trek, but here I am finally in the famous pod hotel of Peru, and nice, we have a little coffee maker here. This is for room service, so if I need anything, I guess I just call them in the bottom and they bring it right up. I don't know how. As expected, it is very small, but it actually sleeps 4 people. So behind this flat lies the answer to a major question that I have, and I'm sure a lot of you have out there. How do we actually go to the bathroom in this thing? And I'm expecting to go in there and see a nice rain shower, jacuzzi tub, maybe even a little bidet. Let's go check it out. Well, there's none of that. But I guess, considering the fact that we have a sink and a commode, that's pretty good. The only thing is, there's a little lack of privacy that can be a little off-putting. Hello! So all kidding aside, the waste management practices is actually really, really eco-friendly. It's actually a dry toilet where all the waste is collected in a bag full of lime and it's taken down every day and destroyed. So there's this wonderful king-size bed back here and 2 singles. And obviously wires are not running all the way up from the ground, so everything is solar powered, including these lights in here. So privacy is actually not that bad because you have all these curtains if you want to pull them over. But I am actually going to keep them all open because I want to watch the stars tonight and look right down the valley. The only stipulation that they have is if you leave the pod, you have to put all this harness back on. And I really don't want to bother with that, so I'm just going to go to bed and keep it on. My only hope is this, that I don't have one of those dreams where I'm falling.
Mr. Richard, good morning.
I'm ready to go. Good morning. Well, considering I was hanging off the side of a mountain, I actually got a really, really good night's sleep. But if you think getting up here was difficult, wait till you see the way we get down. So it's a series of 6 zip lines from top to bottom. And these are not just your regular run-of-the-mill fairground zip lines. These are pretty damn fast and are really, really long. Fortunately, I don't have to carry much luggage, but there is enough in there for clean underwear. Here we go. We good?
All right. First,
Yep.
complete.
Yep, and we're off. Woo! Ha! Oh, came in hot. Came in hot, man. I came in hot. I tell you what, thank you. I tell you what, every part of this experience, going up spending the night. Coming down was absolutely incredible, and it's not every day that you check into a hotel and spend the night and you can die at every turn. Amerigo, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Let me give you a big hug. Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Oh, what's next? The next part of our journey takes us deep into the cloud forest to the Inkaterra Machu Picchu Pueblo, which will be our home for the next couple of days as we explore Machu Picchu. Now, the only way to get here is by rail from Ollantaytambo in the Sacred Valley, which is a feat of engineering in itself. The tracks were laid in the 1930s, but there's very little land to put it on. You're hugging the mountains on one side and the Urubamba River on the other. Fortunately, the carriages have these huge panes of glass in the roof, so it makes for quite the spectacular journey. Although railways still have an environmental impact, it is considerably less than those of road and air travel, using as much as 30% less energy per passenger mile than cars and 20% less than planes, which makes this part of my journey all the more guilt-free. Not that I had any choice. Our next stop in the Sacred Valley is another Inkaterra property, this time in Machu Picchu Pueblo, smack bang in the middle of a cloud forest. Quite aptly named, by the way, because there's not a lot around here but forest and clouds. And an interesting fact is only about 1% of the Earth's surface is cloud forest, and it's basically a microclimate that lives between the high Andean mountains and the low Amazon River itself. I feel like I'm in some lost jungle somewhere, and I'm really looking forward to what this place has to offer. The property sits at the base of the valley, surrounded by really steep mountains, and it was originally a tea plantation that the owners of Inkaterra bought in the early 1990s and built this hotel. And it truly is being pulled into the canopy of the forest. In fact, so much so, even from above, you can hardly see it. Even the wires themselves and the power lines are all being covered in vines, which makes it feel like the forest is just pulling it back in. Ecotourism is so important to Inkaterra that they even have their own eco-centre here that employs 9 guides. I sat down with one of the guides, Carmen, to ask her why ecotourism was so important to Inkaterra.
Inkaterra does responsible tourism for tomorrow, thinking in the next generations. So we actually work with kids of this town, Machu Picchu Pueblo, well known as Aguascalientes, with workshops every year. So we teach them the importance of all these beautiful environments, the importance of each of these single species of wildlife.
Carmen agreed to take me on an eco tour of the property, starting with one of the most popular activities, which is bird watching. I was also surprised to learn that the property actually has the largest collection of orchids anywhere in the world. But for me, I was most excited because apparently I was about to meet the original Paddington bear. The people here at Inkaterra are committed to conservation, and as part of that, they have a bear rehabilitation centre, which is made up basically of 2 parts. This first area, which is the fully captive area, where they can actually study the bear's behaviour, and then hopefully move them on to the secondary area, the semi-captive area, and finally from there out into the wild. And here we have a 30-year-old bear called Pepe, who was actually rescued from a zoo. A little fact that most people might not know is that Paddington bear, yep, the great little cute Paddington bear, was from the deepest, darkest Peru, and he was in fact an Andean spectacled bear. So this is the second area that we were talking about earlier, the semi-captive area. And as you can see, it's much bigger. It's still enclosed, and that's to protect the bears, obviously. Coco here was found as a cub by a professor, who initially kept them, even though it was illegal, but the professor felt that it was safer for the cub to stay with him. However, as the months and years passed, Coco began to get bigger and bigger, and it was too much for the professor, who reached out to Inkaterra, and these guys have taken Coco in and preparing him, hopefully, to get him out into the wild.
The Andean Bear Rescue Centre is just one of the many conservation initiatives funded by the Inkaterra Association. This self-funded, not-for-profit organisation has been providing research, conservation and education throughout Peru since 1978.
So just like Urubamba, they have their own farm here, but it's significantly different. First of all, in Urubamba it was very flat. Here we're surrounded by lush green mountains, and the produce is a little different. It was mostly grains in Urubamba, and here we have vegetables like this zucchini and fruit like this passion fruit. They also make their own honey in the beehives up there, but this is as close as I'm going to get because, well, I'm no beekeeper.
And unfortunately, much to my horror, I was soon to find out that bees weren't the only living species on this farm.
So they don't just farm fruit and vegetables here. And I've travelled all around the world and I completely understand different cultures and different kinds of food. But since we've been here, there's a couple of things on the menu that I've seen, one of them being llama, and the other one is guinea pig. And if you look around here, it's just tough to see, but they're actually farming these guys for the table. And this is tough to do, and I'll tell you another little secret. My cameraman, Ben, is actually a vegetarian, and I don't imagine you're having much fun in here, are you, Ben? No.
Run, big free.
The hotel is located in a little town called Agua Caliente, which literally translates to hot springs. And even on the property of the hotel, they have little hot springs up here, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. But first of all, after a long day farming, making tea and looking at bears, I want to have a nice Andean sauna, which is in this little thatched hut, and there's a lot of eucalyptus in there, which is my favorite scent. You can see the smoke going right at the top. They say that it's really, really warm, so let's go give it a shot. Oh. Wow, that really is hot. Good morning, it's early, and I've got Carmen up early here with me because she's going to be my guide today up at the ancient Inca ruins of Machu Picchu. Now we're here early, but there's still a big line. People are waiting on a bus to take them up to the beginning of the hike that gets you up to Machu Picchu, which is actually one of the concerns that I have. There's this many people this early in the morning. What is the effect on tourism on places like Machu Picchu? But I'm really looking forward to getting up there and checking it out, but I want to get an idea, and I'm sure Carmen will explain to me how it really is affecting it. The Peruvian government themselves have put some stipulations on the amount of people that can get up there, so let's go check it out and see what it's like. So welcome to Machu Picchu. That might be time for another little bit of a history lesson. Machu Picchu itself was built around 1450 during the height of the Inca Empire, but it was only inhabited for about 100 years, and most of them were gone by about 1540, and there's a couple of theories as to why they left. The first theory is that they believed that the conquistadors were going to come up, take over and destroy the place. The second theory is that there was disease and virus that they couldn't fight that was killing the population off, so everybody left for that reason. And a third theory is that some of the local tribes who were not under the Incan Empire at the time were going to come from the mountains and take over also. What we do know is that the conquistadors didn't make it here, which is partly the reason that it's so well preserved, and it's one of the most famous Inca sites in the world. Excuse me, I'm looking for the gift shop. This way? Thank you. The place was abandoned in about 1540 and was basically relatively undisturbed for about 370 years, when an American by the name of Hiram Bingham discovered the place in 1911. He was actually looking for somewhere else, but some local farmers brought him up here and he discovered Machu Picchu. Now there is a little bit of a controversy because Hiram Bingham was part of Yale University and he took a lot of the artifacts from here to Yale, and it was only in 2011 that most of those artifacts actually came back to their original place. This is a sacred plaza, but as you can see behind me, today there's not much sacred about it, and it kind of brings up a point that I talked about earlier. You have to wonder what the impact on a place like this is from all of these tourists. Now, when this was originally built, they think there was about 400 permanent inhabitants here, maybe 1,000 when an emperor came to visit, but today there's 4,000 people. That's 10 times the amount of people it was originally built for every day coming through here. And what's really surprising to me is how open it is to these tourists. Like, there's no guardrails, there's no ropes to keep people back from the actual ruins themselves. Just walking down here, you see people sitting all over them, and that has to have some kind of an impact. And unfortunately, the Peruvian government are taking some steps and are taking some further steps in a few months to where they're limiting the amount of people that can come visit here. I think 2 sessions a day and limiting the amount of people that can be in those sessions. But I hope it's not too little too late, because honestly, I would like my kids and their kids and generations after that to come see this. Wow, what an incredible view. Now you can actually see why it's called the Cloud Forest. So my time here is coming to an end, and Carmen, thank you so much for guiding me around here. I really appreciate it. I have to say, I was really blown away by the place. I've seen it in pictures 1,000 times, but it does it absolutely no justice. And you can see why. In 1983, it was made a UNESCO Human Heritage Site. And then in 2007, it was actually voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world.
The challenge for Peru is that their economy is in desperate need of the tourist dollars, but the environment is in desperate need of protection from those same tourists. Fortunately, eco-resorts like Inkaterra are leading the way, and the hope is that the Peruvian government and the private sector follow their lead. But for me, it's time to head back to the airport at Cusco.
They pulled over. Look, they pulled over as a group. Thank you, gracias. So thank you very much. No problems at all. Everything was perfect. Nice flat roads up there.
Well, Peru, what an incredible journey this has been. But where do you really sit on the Leave No Trace Eco Scorecard? Well, taking into account all of our criteria of minimal impact, sustainability, social responsibility, and guest experience, I give this trip an overall grade of B. Now, to get a more in-depth analysis of how I scored this trip, visit the website at leavenotrace.tv.
And what was really interesting on this trip was how an organisation like Inkaterra is managing the volume of tourism in relation to the environment. I just hope that the measurements they're putting in place keep these places beautiful for generations to come. So the next time you travel, do so as an eco-tourist. I'm Richard Crawford, and when you travel next time, leave no trace.